Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We are going to go over on how to get paid in Mydoma. This includes orders, proposals, estimates, which I probably should have done that in reverse, and invoices. So what we're going to go over is why use Mydoma to get paid easier and faster, streamline the process of getting paid, understand how to create estimates, proposals, invoices, and orders, and then hands-on expert demonstration by myself. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go over a designer that you may or may not relate to, but kind of to get you a better picture of where this would kind of come in. So let's first meet Avery. Avery's the owner of a principal designer of a small firm that started about 5 years ago. Avery and their team work on full service projects. They pride themselves on providing an excellent customer experience and want to streamline their design process. So of course, we all have our problems with our business, and let's try to get some solutions. So the first problem that Avery has is getting paid. She loves designing, and seeing beautiful project coming to an end is rewarding. However, Avery dislikes the awkward and painful task of tracking down payments. They do not have a streamlined process for getting paid, and they also want to improve their workflow when it comes to estimates, proposals, invoices, and orders. Change is also hard. She wants to reduce the number of tools they use, maximize their time, and save money. They want the benefits of change, but understanding new workflows isn't easy. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Let's represent. There we go. So the first step is getting paid. So nothing helps you get paid faster whenever it's easy and convenient for your clients. So you can send them a notification from the studio, and they can log into your client portal, click invoice, and pay directly right then and there. Wherever they might be, whether it be at home, in the office, on vacation, with a few clicks from their laptop or mobile phone, they can pay any invoice with credit card or ACH transfer if you are in the US. ACH is specifically US only right now. Step 2 would be estimates. So estimates enable you and the clients to gain a better understanding of what a project involves. So estimates result in smoother execution of the project. You are spared last-minute overheads and unforeseen expenditures. There we go. What it means is lesser project costs. Estimation means glitch-free, uninterrupted project execution. So always get your estimations first before presenting pricing to your clients. Next, you would have the proposals. So once you've presented the items and products and services tab through the views and discussed with the client how they'd like to proceed, you can create a proposal for the client to approve before creating that invoice. So it's an extra kind of formal document to have that final signature before you actually collect the money. Next, you would invoice the clients. Invoicing ensures it is essential to success of your business. Make a list of your taxes, and you'll want to create that in your studio settings if you haven't already. Knowing what you sell and whether it is taxable or not allows you to set up your invoicing. Set up Stripe to accept ACH and credit card payments. Again, ACH is US only. Have relevant business information on hand to speed up the process. And finally, you would send out your official orders to actually order the products. Orders are built off of the products and services. You've added to the products and services list. It's best practice to assign the products to a vendor because orders are created by the vendor. You can't create an order with multiple vendors because then they wouldn't know who's from what or what's from who. Once items have been added to an order, they are automatically tagged as ordered on the products and services list under statuses. Okay, so now let's go into the studio and kind of go over those steps. So first, I'm going to actually go a little bit off of my regular thing. And I'm going to show you the studio settings stuff first, because this is stuff that you would want to create before you start the project and kind of have things ready. So you're going to select your logo mark at the top left corner, go to studio settings. Then in here, you see a variety of different things. So let's first set up your taxes, because this is always important. And if you set this up first thing, that'll be a guaranteed way to make sure that you are good to go and all set. So on all accounts, you should have an accounting tab under here. Not all accounts have Connect QuickBooks though, so just keep that in mind. On the top right-hand corner, you will see Add Tax, or if you're on a mobile device or a smaller screen, it'll be a plus sign at the bottom right corner, and it'll be there. So I'm going to select Add Tax. I'll give it a name and a description, and then I'll select to add a tax rate. The rate name, agency, and value, if you are connected to QuickBooks, needs to match QuickBooks exactly. So for example, I could have state tax, Tennessee Department of Revenue, and then the percentages that I have there. If you don't know, be sure to check with your accountant, bookkeeper, your local offices, places that will know your tax rates and what needs to be applied where, just because there are so many different tax rates around the world. We can't guarantee that we'll know what you need. Some places do require multiple taxes. So for example, like a province and a federal tax, you can select to add another tax rate and it'll list both of those. If you are doing a split tax like this, I recommend turning on this calculate a split tax, because then it will break it down for you on what amount of tax is applied to which rate and agency. So it does say that once you turn it on and save it, you aren't able to turn it off, but typically best practice, I would say, is to keep it on whenever you're creating a tax. So let's say that I have a 6% and a 5% from somewhere. Once I do this and fill out all the information, I'm just grabbing random numbers because I don't necessarily know all the right numbers for certain places, and I'm going to go ahead and save it. So now I can see this new tax, and it has that 6% and that 5% listed here. And it has this little icon to show that it is a split tax, versus I have this county tax that is only one line and it is not split tax. If you need to edit a tax rate, I recommend doing that immediately, because once you start applying it throughout the studio, if you edit a tax rate, it will change throughout the entire studio no matter what. So if you did have a tax rate that you no longer needed, I would click on it to edit it, select to archive, done, and then create that new tax. So if your tax rate went up or down, no matter what, I would create a new tax. So moving forward, it is based off of that one, because you don't want to change any previous documents that had the old tax on there. Setting up your payments. If I go to payments in the left-hand menu, I can see the option to connect to Stripe. So once I connect with Stripe, it will pull up the option to log in through my Stripe account or set up my Stripe account. Since that requires a lot of business information, some bank information, I'm not going to be able to go through all those steps, but we do have a video or an article that goes over a lot of those steps for you. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you do already have a Stripe account, what I recommend doing is opening it up in a new tab first and then select Connect with Stripe, because then oftentimes it will recognize that you're already logged in and help make that process faster. Let me actually pull up my studio that has payments already connected to kind of show you what it would look like once it is connected. So when it is connected, And if you are in the US, you should have the toggle options for credit card and bank transfers. So if you only wanted to collect bank transfers, you can toggle this to the left. To the left is off, to the right is on. And so for the credit card, that would mean that I'm only going to accept bank transfers. It's not even going to offer them credit card payments. Or I can do vice versa. If I do it in the studio settings, it's set up for the entire studio, for any invoices that you create from that point moving forward. But otherwise, you are able to edit this on each individual invoice. Same thing for passing fees to the client. You can check mark this, and then any invoices that you create from the point that you do that moving forward, it will automatically have the fees passed to the client. Any invoices that you created before you check marked it would not have that automatically passed. But again, you can also change this on each individual invoice. Keep in mind that this is not legal everywhere. So you definitely want to be sure to check with a business lawyer and or accountant if passing the fees to a client is legal in your jurisdiction. Okay, now I'm going to go over to my projects. Let's actually go to the correct studio. There we go. And then I'm going to select Add Project. So if you have created a project template, this is going to make things so much faster. We do have a webinar separate about project templates and a webinar separate about creating products and services. So those views and everything like that. So definitely check those out. We don't have enough time to go over everything, but if you do have questions at the end, we're more than happy to go over that too, or direct you to the right place. So let's create this project. So I am going to name it and then I'm going to select the template that I would like. So I have this one. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And with project templates, it copies over pretty much everything that's in there except for the financials. So any proposals, invoices, and orders or estimates, because those will change each and every time. But any features that you have turned on and off, any statuses, etc., it will copy over. You can also set a start and end date status, whether you want the project to be published or not. Next, I will then select what clients I would like on here and team members if they do not have the project manager permission. For this, if you wanted to hold off on adding your clients, you can come back and add them later. But I'm going to go ahead and create this. And we're going to go into the products and services. So this template, I had items already pre-selected just so I have this available and to save time. If you don't know how to add products, you would either use the clipper or you can pull from the product catalog that you have clipped before. Same thing for services. So typically you'll start out with kind of the conceptual phase and you'll select actual products. Ensure you tie the vendor to the products, because if the vendor is not tied to the products, then you won't be able to create those orders. So let's see, I have vendors added to all of these, so we are good to go. If you did not add a vendor, you can, if you're in table view, select the three dots and edit. Or if you're in card view, select the pencil icon and edit base product. So typically you don't want to do this edit base product for any pricing. You just want to edit base product for like the description, the name, the vendor, things like that. So I can go over to specs and I can change the vendor listed here. Keep in mind that by editing base product, this edits the whole product catalog, and this will edit across the board. So if this is a change that you just need for just this item, do not select edit base product. That's specifically why I say if you have pricing changes, you're not going to edit base product. Unless it's the first time that you've added that product into your studio, then that would be a reason that you might. So you'll separate items into views by tagging them. You can bulk tag items different ways. The easiest way, if you're clipping things, I recommend is going to table view, and then you can check mark specific items that you would like. And then you have the option to edit tags at the top and then select the tag that you'd like. Again, we have a webinar specifically on this, so I'm not going to go too far in depth at this moment. But creating views will help you whenever you're trying to create proposals by room or category or things like that. So for example, I have lighting here, but I also have kitchen. So there's a few different things that you can do. If I come in and enter my views, I can see that I have a bunch of different views that I have pre-created. You don't have to have that many views. It is totally up to you. So whenever I'm trying to create an estimate, I'm going to select Add To while I'm in the Products and Services, Add To, and then I'm actually going to select Order. So orders actually double as an estimate and an order. So I don't have any orders currently, so I'm going to create a new order. And then today is April. Oops. Okay. So then I can select what vendor I would like. It's going to filter for just the vendors that are listed in this project. So if you don't have the vendor tied to the specific products, you won't see that vendor listed here. So also the main reason why it does this is so you aren't going through your giant list of vendors and then being like, did I source something for this client from them or not? So that's why it's extremely important to make sure that you have the vendor tied to the products or services that you are proposing. So I'm going to go ahead and select Add. And then from here, I have a few different filtering options. So I'm not going to be able to change the vendor because it is for the estimate or order, but I can switch between different views. So if I only wanted to say only things for the kitchen, I could filter for that. Or if I only wanted things for the bathroom, whatever, I could filter for that by view. Otherwise, you also have the options to filter by category. So if I wanted to only look for things that I labeled for lighting, it'll show me those. And then show all, this is where I can either show the custom product headers or sub items. So if you are trying to source a fabric that you're trying to choose for a sofa that you're doing, but the fabric's not coming from the same place, then you can select sub items and it'll show those sub items instead of the headers. So that's something to keep in mind if you do work with custom products a lot. Lastly, you are able to also search by tags. If you didn't necessarily have a view for those, you can definitely filter by tag. So from here, I can select to add all, or I can select individual items. I'm going to go ahead and select add all, and it's going to list it here, and we're going to confirm. So whenever you do this, if you have multiple options, I highly recommend going ahead and getting the request for the alternatives, because then you're one step ahead. Then you already know that no matter which option your client chooses, you know the pricing for. So if I come over to the orders, go ahead and refresh because Zoom likes to eat up my bandwidth. There we go. I can see the order here, or technically the estimate, and it has all 3 items listed here. So I do also recommend creating orders for retail items as well, just because that can help you keep track of if you have actually ordered things or shipped them, stuff like that. So it's something to keep that in mind. But once you are happy with the estimate, you can select the 3 dots and download it as an estimate, or you can also email it directly to the vendor. If you have the vendor's information already included in the vendor profile, it will fill that in for you. You can also manually type in this field if you needed to change it, or if you didn't set that yet. The subject and message you can of course set, and then type, I would do estimate first. You can also turn off the pricing on this. That way it doesn't show any pricing on this estimate, and it kind of just reassures, yes, I want to know the pricing for this. Then I can go ahead and send this. And it'll show that the email was successfully sent. Something to keep in mind, you are also able to send to multiple emails. So if I wanted to also send this to myself, I could do a comma, space, and then, oops, and add my email in there too. It does not CC me, it sends it separately. So that's something to keep in mind. But if you wanted to have a record of what you sent, or if you just wanted to make sure that you received it whenever you're first getting comfortable with things, to kind of see what they see, by all means, you can absolutely do that. Once you have sent that, I recommend updating the status to RFQ sent. So some of these statuses are defaulted in here, but some of them I have created myself. So if you wanted to create your own order statuses, you can select add a status here. Or if you go to your studio settings again, so logo mark, studio settings, and then go down to orders, custom status, you can see any statuses that you have actively available. To edit a status, you'll select the pencil icon and you can change the status type. It is not required to have a status type, as you'll see that there are only 3 listed here. So if it doesn't quite fit any of those, you do not have to set that. But you do need a name, and then you can set the color to kind of match what you would like. If you have branding colors in here, you can select those to kind of make it along with the theme. But you can also select default colors, or if I click this option at the top, I can also kind of drag it around to whatever I would like. I'm going to leave that as the pink though, so we're just going to leave that there. And then select done to save. If you wanted to add a new status, this is at the very bottom. I can select add new status. And again, same information. If you wanted to reorganize the statuses on the list that you have, you can click on these 2 lines here and drag and drop it where you would like. Since we're here, let me also go over communication. This is also where you can put in an order header and an order footer. So if you have information that you want every vendor to know all the time, you can put this here and it will apply it onto all estimates and orders for you. So instead of retyping in a note that you have to do every single time, this, if you put it here, it will automatically show whenever you create a new order or estimate, and on previous ones as well. You also have the same thing for invoices. So if you wanted that, an invoice header and an invoice footer for all invoices for your clients, you can place that in the studio settings, invoices, and put that information here. Let's go back to that project though, and back to the orders. So now that I have sent that request, I will wait for them to get it back. If I needed to add any status notes, I can do this here. So public notes do show on the orders to the vendors. Status notes are internal and kind of ways for you to update things as you go. So if you wanted to just update each order as you got them, you can do that. Or another way that you can do this is go to reports if you have that, because the starter plan does not have this. Orders, and then you can see that information here. You are also able to select status notes here and add or review any status notes that you have added. So if I wanted to say that the vendor was out of office, and just note that, hey, it may be a bit before I hear back from them, I can go ahead and add that status note here just so my whole team can see this. In the orders, if you scroll down, you can also select the status on each individual item. So say that you didn't get the pricing verified on this item quite yet. If you don't set the status, it will default to what the overall order status is. Otherwise, if you set it for each line item, you can see that listed here. If I go back to the products and services, you can also see that the order status updated here as well. And that's kind of where the color comes in handy because you can see at a glance where things are. For retail items, you do also have this little box with the arrow that you can click on. It'll take you directly to that site. And as you're ordering things or checking the price, you can come back and then just say pricing verified, etc. So once I have created this estimate and gotten all pricing verified, I'm actually going to remove the item that I am not going to need just for right now. So this was the alternate. I can go ahead and remove this from the item or from the order, just so whenever I am ready to send out the order, I'm already pre-prepared. To edit the items, if you needed to change the pricing, you can also select the three dots and edit directly on the order and update the pricing here. Okay, so from there, let's see. You do also always want to double check your markups. So one way to do this is if you're in table view and you scroll over, you can see the profit and loss. And this is also a great way to see your profit and loss in general. So if I scroll over, it does depend on what I have visible, but I have a P/L column. And I can see that these items have a markup and these bottom two do not. So I don't have any profit listed here. So I would want to know that I need to mark these bottom two up. The markup percent will only show if you're doing a percent. If you type in a fixed rate, it won't show a markup, but it should still show a profit and loss if you have a difference between your cost, the designer cost, and the client price. The price is what you are charging the clients. So let me scroll back over. And now I'm going to create a proposal. So of course you can do the views, and whenever you're in the views, clients can like and dislike items. And that's mainly how you would see if they would want one alternate versus the other. But you can do this kind of while you're getting estimates. Some people would rather hold off to make sure that it's also in your budget. I do recommend doing that, but some people are dream clients and the budget really doesn't matter. Rare, but it is amazing. So sometimes you can go ahead and do that. Sometimes you might want to wait and hold off. So they can like and dislike items. So I can select to thumbs up or thumbs down items. And you can do this in your all products and services, or if I went to that specific kitchen view, I can do that here. Thumbs up, thumbs down, and so on and so forth. You are able to hide the pricing from your clients in the views if you would like. And you can also do this step early in the process to get a better idea of what kind of would be an inspiration. So maybe you're saying, hey, these items might not be it, but this just helps me get a better idea of what you would possibly be interested in. Once you have confirmed what your clients like and dislike, you can create a proposal. And you don't necessarily have to have the like and dislike if you don't want to, but it is extremely useful. So to create a proposal, I probably should have said that. You're going to select Add To at the top right, and then go to Proposal. So now I'm going to create a new proposal. Okay. And then I'm going to select add. From here, I can select where I would like it from. So I'm actually going to say I specifically want these kitchen items. I don't have to scroll down. I can also just type in here. And then it'll show me everything that's for this kitchen, and I can select add all. Once I see all that, I can confirm it. And then it'll show me that it's loading the proposals. So let me come over here. I'm going to go ahead and refresh instead of waiting for that to fully load. Here we go. So I have the items in here. For my view only, for the designer, I do have the links here to view the items on the website, and it will also show me if it is ordered or on an order, and then also if it's invoiced. The clients do not see those options right here. They do not have any options to edit it. Basically, once you select ready for client approval, of course, minus the link and the truck or the receipt icon, this information will be what the clients see on that proposal. And they are not able to edit anything. They can't edit the public note, but they can comment on the right-hand side. If you have a proposal disclaimer, so something like the pricing listed is only available for certain times, I recommend putting that in the public notes. Someplace that you could have that handy would be in the message center. So if you wanted to have any messages that you typically send to people, you can create message templates with a conversation just with yourself and your team and have those templates listed there for you. So of course you'll want to make any edits that you want before you make it ready for client approval. So if you need to make any edits, you can still select 3 dots and edit, or you can delete items. From here, I can also sort the items. So again, I'll just grab these 2 lines, drag and drop it. And then once I am happy with this, I'm going to select ready for client approval. When you do this, it will, as long as the project is published, right now I have my project unpublished. If the project is published and the client is assigned to the project and they are active, it does automatically send them an email notification saying that the proposal is ready. So once they are ready, you can, or they would come in, select approve, and then type in their name to approve it. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and paste my profile's name here. And so now I can see when it was approved by and who it was approved. If I needed to make any changes as the designer, I can unapprove it. Clients do not have the option to unapprove it. So if you needed to unapprove it for any reason, you can click unapprove. Just keep in mind, it's not going to keep track of that original signature. So I can unapprove it. If I needed to make any changes, I would toggle it off for ready for client. I can select the 3 dots and swap it. So if I needed to swap out for a different tile, I don't have a different tile, but if I did in my products and services, I could easily do that. And then it would apply that here. So let's actually grab this item and then I'll show you how it would swap. So I have this pendant. If I select the 3 dots and swap, I can select this one instead, add it, and it'll just replace that. So if I go to sort, you can see that that initial pendant is not listed there. You are also able to select the 3 dots and download this as a PDF if you wanted to provide that to your clients. And then also, you are not able to add more information onto the proposal. So if you wanted, we do recommend directing them to the products and services for information, because they can click on the proposal icon here and it'll take them directly there, and they can select to go right back to where they were in the view. Or you can also export the view and add files here, so you can attach any exported views for spec sheets or tear sheets, things like that. Okay, From here, I got the approval from my client. So I'm going to actually go ahead and reapprove this. From there, typically you'll want to turn this into an invoice. So I can select the three dots and turn it into an invoice here. So it's going to take everything that's on this proposal and make an invoice. So assign manner. You can select invoices that you already have created as long as they are not paid and are not ready for the client. But you can also create new invoices just by typing it in. Then I will select save. And now you can see that all these items have this little invoice badge. So if I click on it, that'll also take me directly to the invoice. Or in my products and services, I will also be able to see if it's on an invoice listed here. So I can click on that and it'll show me the invoice. Of course, you can go over to invoices over here and select that too. Just a bunch of different ways to navigate to it. So if you do not have Stripe set up to collect credit card payments, you will not see the option at the bottom right to pass the fees or see what the fees are. If you do, let's go into an invoice real quick. You do have it set up. Oops. Let's come here. You should see this listed. Keep in mind that if you do make the invoice ready for the client to pay, it does lock in if you pass the fees or not. If you needed to change it, you'll need to turn it off and then check or uncheck it. So checking the pass fees means that the client is paying the fees. If you uncheck it, that means it is going to be taken out of what they pay. They pay this, and then the fees are going to be taken out of that. So let's see. I'll review my information. I can add the billing address here. So if I select the three dots, I can also select an existing address. So if I have a client assigned to this and they have an address in their profile, it will show here as well. These are my addresses and addresses that I have put in the studio settings, which I'll go over for orders here in just a moment. My invoice header is listed here. I am also able to leave a public note. So if I needed to add anything extra specifically for this invoice or specifically for this client, I can add a public note, type any information and save it. I'm able to add notes onto each line item. If I had any notes in the client section for the products and services and then added it to the invoice, added the item to the invoice, that note would pull over, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. I can continue to scroll down. I see payments listed here. I can attach any extra files I need, and then I can go ahead and make it ready. If you are a person that would like to collect deposits, you can select to add a payment. This bottom line will always be the final payment. So I'm going to select add payment. Maybe I want to do 50% deposit. I can type that in the description and press enter, and it'll actually calculate it for me. So there's two options. So from the invoice total or from the remainder. Since I haven't done anything yet, it's going to be the same. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. But if I wanted to add another 25%, you can see that that number is different because it's from the invoice total or just from what's remaining between that 50% deposit and what's left. I am going to select the three dots and delete this payment line. So from here, I can also select the due date. Keep in mind, again, this bottom line will always be the final payment, or if you're just doing one payment in total, that is going to be the only payment. So the due date for this bottom line will always be the farthest out. So if I wanted this as the first payment, I can say that they need to pay it by Friday. Okay. Then this one, it won't let me select anything before Friday because this last one is going to be the final payment. So just something to keep in mind. If a client pays you outside of the studio, you can select the 3 dots and mark as paid. But otherwise, if they pay through the studio, through credit card or ACH, it'll manually mark it as paid. In order to send it to them to have it paid, you do need to toggle it on, ready for client to pay. If the project is published, the client is active, and the client is added to the project, it does automatically send an email notification saying that an invoice is payable. It would direct them to log into the studio and then come and pay. An alternate option is that you can have them, if you're accepting credit card or if you just want them to review it, you can select the 3 dots and email it to the client. So this will be a public invoice. If they are paying by bank transfer, so ACH, they must log in order to pay by that. There is no way to pay it outside of the studio otherwise. So if you email this to them and then they're just like, hey, there's not a way to pay, it's because they have to log in. This is because they have to log into their bank information through Stripe, which is also through Plaid. We do have articles on how to set this up if you are in an area that does allow it. And if you have any questions, please let us know. But otherwise, they will not be able to pay by ACH unless they are logged in, come to the invoice, and pay here. It is just extra security for their information. Otherwise, if they are paying by credit card, you can email the client. Again, if you have the client added to the project, it should pull in the name and the email. And you are also able to email to multiple people. Does that total include that percent? I'm going to loop back around to your question, but I will not forget it. So in here, I can do a subject and a message, and then I can go ahead and send it. Then from there, they can click on the email, and it'll show them the option to go ahead and pay by credit card if that is an option. You can also view email history based off of what you've sent. I did not send it to anybody, so it was not going to show anybody. It shows the email and the date and also who sent it. And then you are also able to download it as a PDF or a CSV file. Downloading it as a CSV is useful if you have a different accounting software. For example, Wave is a accounting software that I've heard of, to where you can import a CSV file of your invoice to have that in your accounting, instead of having to manually create in a new one. So if I go over to the reports and invoices, I can also filter and see what my latest invoice number is, and also what's paid, unpaid, and so forth. I am also able to filter here. Keep in mind that in the reports, it does filter for the month, so the previous month. If you needed to see anything sooner, you would want to filter for that. You can use the arrows, or you can select the pencil to say, maybe I just want to see for the last year. Okay. And enter that in. And then of course you can filter by all, paid or unpaid. And you can also see if the due date is in the past. So if they were supposed to pay last week, it does show it as overdue to you and your clients. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so once the invoice is paid, again, if you wanted to mark it as paid, you'll select the 3 dots and then mark as paid. You can select how they paid and then any payment information. So for example, their check number. Okay. And that'll show there. And then of course you can do the same if you're doing 2 deposits. Otherwise it would just be that one line. But once it is marked as paid, then I would go over to the orders. And I would go ahead and place the orders. So make sure that you have the correct alternates listed on here in case your client changed their mind at any point. If they do change their mind, whenever you change that on the proposal or the invoice, I recommend going ahead and changing it on the order too while you're at it, just to get it knocked out and to help prevent any errors in the future. But I do always recommend triple checking everything before you send it. So with retail, you can select the option here, add it to cart maybe. And I do actually have a add to cart option. So if I had a long list of things that I needed to order from this vendor on retail, I can come back and see everything that I've added to cart easily, and then see what else I still need to add. Or once I have sent it, I can scroll down and say, I have submitted it. So submitting it would be that I have emailed it to the vendor as an order, and then I usually leave the pricing on. And just, again, in the message, kind of confirm that, hey, this is the official order. Yep, we're good to go. And once you update things here, again, it does change the color in the products and services as well. And so if you needed to, you can click on this order badge and it'll also take you back to the order. So as you saw, that this item was not on the proposal or invoice because this was the different alternate. So again, just keep in mind, if you do switch things out, that you switch it out everywhere whenever you're switching it out, but also just extra triple check, because on the orders as well, you can see if it was proposed with this little clipboard icon and invoiced with this little receipt icon. And this one does not. So that's an easy way to tell that, hey, this is not the right item. So I can select the 3 dots and delete it. And I can select to add the item that I actually wanted. And so you see that I have this proposed and invoice option. So as you get your orders, typically we recommend the easiest way is to just have at least like 1 day a week where you update all your orders. That is easiest to do it from the order reports section. And you can go through all your orders. Something else is if you are in a vendor profile, so whether you go from the reports to the vendor profile, you come to the vendor profile here, however you navigate to them. At the top right, you do have the option to see orders. Again, if you have the reports option, the starter plan does not have this. I can select this and it's going to show me all orders that I have for this specific vendor. And so that helps me keep track of everything for this vendor, that I just go through everything and make sure it's all good. So I can click on this, update anything, come back. If I wanted to make any status notes, I can do that here too. Just keep in mind that filters do change whenever you go back. So if you wanted to change a filter, you can, you may need to triple check that. Okay, and then of course, once everything gets here and you have received everything, so you can say that the acknowledgement was received, confirmed that you've paid it, that it's been shipped, if it was damaged, canceled, back ordered, etc. You can create all these statuses here to help keep track of the products. And if you're in the products and services in the table view, again, it's just super easy to see where everything is at a glance based off of those order statuses. Once you have ordered everything and invoiced everything, I do recommend locking the pricing. So if you select the 3 dots and edit, if you're in table view, or the pencil icon if you're in card, and then selecting this lock icon here to lock in the pricing. So people won't be able to make any edits to this pricing because everything's already been paid for. So if you're in the card view, you can also just select this lock icon at the top. That will also work. And that is pretty much it on everything to do with creating the estimates, proposals, invoices, and orders. So I'm going to loop back to these questions real quick.
So Paxton, can you just explain the fees? So the fee is not, the studio or the Stripe fee processing fee is not added to the particular product, for example. So if you have a light that's $500, the fee is not added to the light total.
Right. So it also depends on pass fees to client or not. So if you are not passing the fees are going to be taken out of what you are asking for. So it's showing here how much you would get paid if they paid by credit card or by bank transfer if you are paying the fees, the client is not. If you pass the fees, however, whenever let's scroll down, let me just delete this because that's going to be the easiest thing to see. If I select to pay now and by card, they can see that the processing fees are added to it. And so that's kind of where that comes in and adds to it, especially because the fees can change based off of credit card or bank transfer. So clients do not see this little box at the bottom right, but whenever they do select how they want to pay, they do see the processing fees listed here. And then the reason why it doesn't show the fees listed here in general, because there may be a chance that they're paying by check or card. So that if you do, or not card, but cash, if you do plan to have them do that, just make sure that they are aware. A lot of people will put it in their contract saying, yes, you are required to cover these fees. But again, just make sure it is legal where you are first.
Great.
Hopefully, Robin, that answered your question. Let me know. Okay, perfect. Is there a way to make the processing fees not shown? So if you are having the fees taken out, it's not going to show the fees. So just keep that in mind whenever you're marking products up. So if I select to pay now and I select pay, it's not going to show the fees. So if you are not passing the fees, it's not going to show the fees to the client because that's being taken out of what they're paying. So just keep that in mind whenever you're marking items up, that you are marking items up accordingly to cover that fee. But
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Is there a way to unlock items once they've been locked?
Yes. So I am in a totally different project. Here we go. So to unlock them, if you're in card, you just click that unlock and it'll say, hey, just keep this in mind and you can proceed. Or in table view, you'll select the 3 dots. I don't remember what other thing I locked, whatever. And unlock, or the 3 dots and unlock here.
And when you unlock an item or lock an item, can you still use it for another client, another project?
Yeah, absolutely. So the locking, it's only locking in the pricing for this specific project. You can still add it to another project and have it have totally different pricing. They're separate. So what locking it does is if for whatever reason you did change the pricing in the catalog, it's not going to affect this locked item because everything's already paid for, locked. You don't want to make any more changes. It's just locking this for this specific project. It's not really changing anything. It's basically like you're marking it as purchased and paid. If anybody was on the older version of Mydoma, but it's the same thing. It's just you're locking it so any other things outside of the project don't affect this.
And do you mind going back to the invoice that you were creating during the demo?
Sure.
Someone's asking, so when you did your payments, your 50%,
Mm-hmm.
is there a way to show the balance due of 50%?
So,
So you did a 50%. So
let me mark this as unpaid real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So at the top right, there's not a way to do this, but let me go ahead and show you what this looks like for a client real quick.
That was the other question, so perfect.
I'm gonna add my client, Emily. She is my favorite test client, so
Mine's Amy Adams.
I gotta also publish this. There we go. Okay, so can you see my incognito browser?
Yes.
Let's Okay, so Hillside Manor, invoices, and come to this invoice. So whenever they scroll down to pay, oh yeah, the payment's not set up on this one. Let's try this again. There we go. What's funny is Emily is my favorite client on this one too. Let's go to Lake House Reno. Invoices. This one's partially paid. So they do see the pay now button on each individual one. Let me go back here and invoices partially paid, mark that as unpaid so you can see what it would look like whenever they first see it. Okay, refresh. So they would still see the amount. This one had a credit on it, so that's why there's also some negative, but they only see the pay now on the first option. And if you have the set due dates here, that'll also show them this here. But whenever they select pay now, it's only showing that first deposit. And they can connect with bank or pay with credit card based off of what you have set for the invoice itself. If I come back here and I turn this on and email it to the client, go ahead and send that. Let me open up the email on this other page real quick, just so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so if you email it to the client, this is what it looks like. It would, of course, would have your studio name and your logo, but since mine is the test studio, that's why it shows those. But it does show amount due is going to be the total, but it does show the payment schedule here. And if it has a due date listed, whenever you send it, it will show that there. And then they can select to review and pay, and then scroll down and pay it. It has me, it knows that I'm logged in as myself here. So let me actually open an incognito. Here we go. So this would be, if they go through the email, this would be what it would look like. And then I can select pay now if they're paying by credit card. And then once this is paid, it'll show that is paid. And then if they wanted to go ahead and pay it, they can, but that's where the due dates come in handy to show like, hey, this is due now versus that's due later. You can also add that into the description if you wanted to say that too, to help if you needed to do that. Maybe when I do see it. Okay, yeah. So hopefully, Melissa, that showed you. I mean, obviously you would do the 90% and then the 10% would be remainder. So if you wanted to include that in the description, you can do that. But that should help show you kind of how that looks like. So if I come back here and again, mark that as paid. Here, let's actually do 90% since you're asking for that. That's due Friday, and this is due. And again, you can put in the description just saying, hey, this is due later. You can absolutely do that. So let me reopen this. So they can pay by card through the public invoice and whenever they're logged in. It's the bank transfer that they have to be logged in for. So if they're paying by credit card, they can pay through the email. They do not have to log in. So I apologize for any confusion on that. I did not mark that as paid, that's why. But you can see that they pay now. Again, the only option is credit card, even though I have both options available. If they wanted to pay by bank transfer, they have to log in. Let me mark that as paid. I'm gonna come down here and I can see that the pay now for the next one would be here. Of course, ideally they would type in their card information, but I'm not trying to spend over $1,000 for a demonstration. That's not gonna go anywhere. The money won't. So hopefully y'all get the idea on that. Any other questions? And if
That's
you
it.
need any more clarity, please let me know. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Once this recording is ready, we will send it out. But I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And please, if you have any questions, if you click on the question mark, you can go to our help guides based off of subject or see all and search from there. Or of course you can connect with Marsha or I, and we can send you different resources. You can send us a message, you can view previous messages that you've seen with us, etc. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.